Well, welcome to another episode. I'll tell you something. It does not feel like Christmas at all. Not a bit. I can't even get into this ho 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 shit, even if there was some ho ho ho's to pay for something. But anyway, remember that Cheech and Chong thing I did? Well, that was someone, like I said, who reached out after a lot of years and didn't know what to expect, and should have actually expected nothing, because some people just don't change over the years, and some people will always be the perennial victim or always play the victim card or whatever the hell it is. And be honest with you, I wish her well, but it's that door opened and closed real fucking quick. But anyway, on to better things. Go back to 1971 and John Wayne. Now, you might say, John fucking Wayne, what are you talking about? Well, like a lot of the stars of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, some of these guys hung on. And, Wayne always was a draw no matter what. Wayne made a ton of westerns. Chisholm, Cahill, U.S. Marshal, things like that. But he did one in 1970 called Rio Lobo, shot by Howard Hawks. And basically, from what I've read on that, Hawks didn't like any part of it. He didn't like the fact that Wayne was old and overweight. He didn't like working with Chris Mitchum. He didn't like working with Jorge Rivera because Jorge spoke not too good English. He fucking hated Jennifer O'Neill. And basically, looking at interviews from that film, around that film, they had no script. Basically, what Hawks was doing was, he was doing what the hell was the first one? Rio Bravo, which he had done twice in El Dorado. And, Rio Bravo had, Dean Martin as the drunken ex-sheriff and John Wayne or whatever. And it always had a crusty old guy involved. And then first one was Walter Brennan. El Dorado was Arthur Honeycutt. And in this one, they had Jack Elam as old Mr. Phillips. The weird thing was that Jack was actually 12 years younger than John Wayne. And another interesting thing that came out of that whole film was that John Wayne refused to ever work with Jack Elam again because he claimed that Jack was stealing a lot of scenes, which he was. I mean, Jack's a scenery chewer. Jack was completely nuts during that film, but actually, that film tanked, and it was put out by Cinema Center. So next year, they made another film with John Wayne called Big Jake. And, of course, a lot of his stock company was involved in these films. Like, I guess they were his drinking buddies, like Bruce Cabot, Greg Palmer, John Agar, a bunch of people like that, Harry Carey Jr., John Dulcet. So this one was set, basically, it was a raid on the McCandles Ranch, led by the Fain brothers, played by Richard Boone. I mean, the main gang, the Fain gang, was Richard Boone, Harry Carey Jr., Glenn Corbett as Breed O'Brien, who the hell else was in there? Greg Palmer as John Goodman or something, John Goodfellow or something, who was a psychopath. They had a couple other gang members who basically just stood around and grunted and were killed. John Wayne's actual two sons are in it, because Ethan Wayne plays his kidnapped grandson, because the Fain gang attacks the ranch, kills a whole bunch of people, throws the ransom note down. Maureen O'Hara is Mrs. McCandles, who sends out a message to her estranged husband, Jacob McCandles, who everybody thinks is dead. This film is a lot more violent than the John Wayne films of old, which is probably why it worked. Of course, Wayne wasn't really that happy with the whole thing. He had to throw a little bit of comedy in there. And there was one thing where, the $1 million ransom was basically newspaper, cut up newspaper. And Chris Mitchum was getting into this role where basically he was going to be upset because he killed somebody over a bunch of newspaper. Well, John Wayne walked onto the set that morning and said, I hear somebody trying to do a little bit of crybaby stuff right here and now, and we're not going to have that. So Richard Boone walked up to Chris Mitchum and said, Chris, you got to realize in this movie, we're all John Wayne. We're all playing John Wayne. So it was a strange film, and it was also the last time that Chris Mitchum would work with John Wayne, because he worked with him in Chisholm, Rio Lobo, and this one, and there was sort of a falling out because of Wayne's conservative viewpoint. But it backfired on Chris, because Chris went overseas. I think he did The Summertime Killer, and when he came back, he found out that he was blackballed because of his association with John Wayne. So it was just a strange set of circumstances. But, you know, Big Jake actually put John Wayne back as a top box office draw for that year. He was the film was I think it was like 23rd best film of the year, and gave Wayne a little bit more clout at the box office because he became #1 at the box office again. That would be the last time. There was just some weird shit going on in the movie where basically they had two collies who were Lassie's offspring, and in the original script it was supposed to be a German Shepherd. So for whatever reason, they dyed these collies darker than they were. And Bruce Cabot played this Indian named Sam Sharpnose, who got killed at the end, and so did the dog, but they just rode away and never even bothered picking up the body. So there was, a lot of strange shit going on with that. But anyway, even though Rio Lobo had lost money on its initial run, they paired it with Big Jake, and it became like a great Duke double feature box office smash. It ran the rounds of the drive-ins, it ran the rounds of the grindhouses. I don't think I saw this on 42nd Street. I think I saw it at a drive-in because, you talk 71, I had just gotten my license, so hey, got to go check out the drive-ins. So, yeah, and it like I said, it worked to a certain extent, but then, John Wayne was not in good health. He had lung cancer, he had a bunch of other shit going on. I believe his last film was The Shootist, which, of course, he brought back Richard Boone and Jimmy Stewart. And that might have been their last films, too. I'm not 100% sure. But Howard Hawks had wanted to do something with Chris Mitchum, but he passed away right after Rio Lobo. Like I said, Chris got jerked around a bit. And it was another thing that basically his father, Robert Mitchum, came to see him on the set, and Hawks wanted to know if Robert would be, willing to play a drunken sheriff again, which he wasn't because he claimed he retired from acting, which prompted John Wayne to say, first day I met Mitch, he said he retired from acting. So I know those guys go back and forth a lot. But anyway, people, John Wayne, love him or hate him, he made some fucking halfway decent movies, politics aside. And I sort of enjoyed Big Jake. I revisited it the other night. So the two of them are both worth checking out. As we get into this shitbag holiday season, and I mean shitbag for a reason, because again, I just came back from food shopping and I never thought I'd be paying $5 for a fucking dozen eggs. And people are hurting, even more so, animals are hurting, because the shelters are becoming overcrowded, because obviously people don't think before they do something and adopt pets and then find out in this wonderful economy they can't afford to feed them. So shelters are really overcrowded and hurting for some help. So keeping that in mind, I still have about a dozen or so of this wonderful fucking t-shirt left, which I will sell for $15 shipped, and $10 off of each sale will go to the shelters to help feed these poor animals, because over this year I've done a bunch of shit, and I'm not sitting here to pat my chest and say how wonderful I am, because I'm not. But I did something for the people of Ukraine, I did something for the pets of Ukraine, I did a bunch of other shit, so let me end the year on an up note for the pets. So if anybody wants a shirt, it's $15 shipped, blowing them out. $10 will go to the shelters. And you can email me for payment instructions at grindhousepurgatory at grindhousepurgatory@gmail.com, or just send the $15 to Mr. 42nd Street Pete at yahoo.com. That's MR42ND, street spelled out, Pete spelled out, at yahoo.com. and give me your address and all that other good shit, and then I will get these out to you as soon as possible. So, trying to do a little something to help here in a fucking world that I don't even understand anymore, nor do I pretend to understand what's going on. So, until next show, stay safe. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling your friends. And like I said, you want to help out some pets and you want a t-shirt to wear, by all means, get in hold of me. So, until next time, stay safe. We'll catch you on the flip side.